Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video I have my team selection ahead of Game Week 33 and my free hit is indeed active. So we'll be going through my final-ish free hit draft ahead of 33. If you're enjoying the content here on this channel, please do remember to like, comment and subscribe. But without further ado, let's jump into today's video. Guys, let's jump into it. This is my current free hit draft. So before we actually start, I do have 3 Manchester United players in my team. Based on the previous video that I uploaded earlier in the week and based on my tweets, that has been met with a lot of backlash. A lot of people think that that is absolutely nonsense to be going for 3 Manchester United players at the moment, and you are fully entitled to that opinion. Manchester United, I'll be honest, they don't look fantastic at the moment. They haven't looked great all season, and they do struggle sometimes to play against not only the big teams, but also the small teams as well. So I'm not necessarily saying that Manchester United against Norwich is going to be 5 or 6-0. But what I wanted to do is, before I even get into showing you my team, is justify why some of those Manchester United players are in there, just before you comment and tell me that I'm silly for having Manchester United players in my team. So what you can see on your screen, I'll remember to flash up on the screen the graphics, is from Fantasy Football Scout. What I've done is I've picked Son, Kane, Ronaldo and Bruno. So the 2 premiums from Manchester United and the 2 premiums from Tottenham, because at the moment, a lot of people are saying that Son and Kane are absolutely essential on your free hit or not. You must own them. And Bruno and Ronaldo are absolutely terrible and you shouldn't own them whether you're on your free hit or not. So what I thought I would do is I just thought I'd present all 4 of those. And what I've done is I've ordered it by minutes per expected goal involvement. So what that essentially tells you is how many minutes does it take for them to accumulate an expected goal involvement. So that combines assists and goals. So it gives you a bit of an idea about goal threat and creativity. So the lower that number is, for example, Salah's is around 60 minutes. That says that he is accumulating an expected goal involvement every 60 minutes. So that is brilliant. So we want this number to be as low as possible. Just to throw another one in there, just to let you know, Sancho's is around 240 minutes. So that again tells you that he's taking quite a long time to accumulate an expected goal involvement. The reason that I wanted to present this on your screen is because the narrative at the moment is that Son and Kane are absolutely amazing. We have to own them. And don't get me wrong, not only are they performing well, but they are elite finishers as well. And you do need to take that into account. But as you can see on your screen, Ronaldo and Bruno are putting up very similar underlying statistics, in some situations better than Son and Kane. And they have an extra fixture. Yes, the extra fixture is against Liverpool, but the fixture that they have other than Liverpool is against Norwich, which in my opinion is a better fixture than Brighton at home. So just to run you through in case you're listening to this and not looking at the screen, Kane has the best minutes per expected goal involvement at 103.4, followed by Bruno Fernandes at 114.6, then Son at 119.3, and then Ronaldo at 120 on the dot. What that tells me, in my personal opinion, is that they are putting up very similar underlying statistics. And if they continue that across the back end of the season and across Game Week 33, I would rather go for the 2 players that have an extra fixture, plus the fixture that they do have as the first fixture, I should say, is, in my opinion, slightly better than the Spurs one. That isn't to say that I don't... You can go for all 4, and we will discuss that. You could go for Son, Kane, Bruno, and Ronaldo. But for me, I don't quite understand, in my personal opinion, having looked at this, the narrative that you should be going for Son and Kane and not going for Bruno and Ronaldo. So I'll stop there. I won't continue to sort of justify my picks, but I did want to explain, rather than it just being, I'm a Manchester United fan, which I am, and that's why you're picking these players, it's actually backed up by the data. And if you look at the algorithms and the projections, the Manchester United players are coming out on top. So I'll leave it there. That is the reason that you will see Triple United in my team. Starting with the goalkeeper, we do have Schmeichel in goal. Now, I actually personally think, as I discussed in the Game Week preview video, that for 4.4 million, for 0.5 million pounds cheaper than Schmeichel, I actually do think that Dubravka is the one to own for me. The reason I don't actually own Dubravka at the moment is because I also think you've got, as you can see in my team, 2 4.4 million pound, 4.5 million pound defenders at Newcastle that are also fantastic value and are also nailed. The issue that you've got with, if you want to go for a Leicester defender outside of Schmeichel, is that I'm not sure any of them will start 2 games. If I had to predict, I would say maybe James Justin, because he's been very good in the Premier League and he was rested in the Europa Conference League. But I just think for safety of starts, the best combination for me is probably Schmeichel in goal and then Newcastle defenders if you want that Newcastle double up. So that's the current position that I'm in. I don't really expect much from the Leicester defenders and from Leicester clean sheet perspective, but I would hope that maybe one of those games could potentially be a clean sheet, maybe looking at that Everton game. But hopefully he'll rack up a lot of saves and maybe you're looking at maybe 5 or 6 points from Schmeichel, which is okay. I do think there are other decent options such as De Gea, such as Ramsdale, but at the moment I'm very tight on budget. And I also think there's a reasonable chance that they pick up at least 1 clean sheet there. I then have Telles. Now, I just presented Manchester United's attacking data for Bruno and Ronaldo. Yes, Manchester United haven't been very good defensively. And I'll be honest, this is the pick where if you want to criticise me, I fully understand that. I don't necessarily expect a clean sheet against Norwich, and I definitely don't expect a clean sheet against Liverpool. The reason Telles is in my team is that he is on corners and free kicks for Manchester United. Luke Shaw looks like he'll need surgery, so I would expect Telles to start both. And his expected goal involvement's around 0.19. So he's actually putting up very good attacking data. I do think there's a potential for a clean sheet against Norwich. And outside of that, I just think being on set pieces as well, whipping in some balls potentially to Ronaldo, I do think there's a possibility of an assist or two for Telles. And outside of that, I just don't think there are that many fantastic options. If I don't go for Telles, I think it'll probably be Kyle Walker-Peters or Gabriel. So those are the other two defenders that I am considering in that middle defensive spot there. And then the other two I've got are actually Burn and Schär. Now, the reason for including these is a few different reasons, actually. Firstly, I do think that the Newcastle defence has been pretty good recently. So that's one really good reason to include them. Outside of that, as you can see, they've got two home fixtures. So Leicester at home and Crystal Palace at home for both of them. Newcastle have actually been very, very good at St James's Park. So I think that's two good home fixtures there as well. And then the other reason is that actually... I should say that Leicester will be tired from the Europa Conference League probably, so they're playing 72 hours. I think the game finished like 68 hours before their fixture against Newcastle. And then Crystal Palace are playing against Chelsea in the FA Cup, again 72 hours before their fixture against Newcastle. And Newcastle only have these two fixtures to worry about. If that fixture goes for Crystal Palace to 120 minutes or they get run ragged by Chelsea, I would say there's a good chance both teams rotate and both teams are tired. And as a result, I think Newcastle players are definitely worth targeting. So at the moment, I've got Burn and Schär. I still personally think that the best two defenders to target from Newcastle are Target and Schär. I should say it's not Schär, Schär. But at the moment, I don't have the budget to go for Target and Schär. So I've got Burn and Schär at the moment. You could potentially go for Emil Krath as well. He's like 4.2 or 4.3 million pound, I believe. But just due to budget constraints, I've got Burn and Schär. Burn is 6'7", and as we'll discuss in a second when we get onto the strikers, Crystal Palace and Leicester concede a lot of big chances from corners. So I still think that they're both very good options. And then outside of that, as you can see by my bench, I don't have any budget to play with. So I've actually got the cheapest bench you can possibly buy in FPL at the moment, from goalkeeper, my midfielder, and two defenders. And the two defenders I've got are Kelly and Tsimikas at 3.8 and 3.7. So that's the defense at the moment. I'm fairly happy with it. Like I said, the only players that might come in are Target at 4.7, Kyle Peters at 4.8, and then potentially Gabriel at 5.4. They are the only three that I could potentially squeeze in. Outside of that, I'm happy with the defense. Let's move on to the midfield. So let's move on to the midfield. And I'll be honest, the midfield, as we are going to discuss at the end, do watch the entire team selection video before commenting with players that I should have included or didn't include. The midfield is the position where I think there are I think I have about 12 or 13 players on my list that I want for game week 33 on my free hit. So the midfield is probably the least locked in. I am fairly comfortable with the three premiums that I've got. So we're going to start with that. As you can see, the armband is on Fernandes. I do think I will be captaining a Manchester United player. In my personal opinion, if he is going to start both games, I actually think that Ronaldo's the one to go for. As you could see by the graphic I presented at the start, the data for Son, Kane, Bruno, and Ronaldo is fairly comparable between the four of them. So I don't think there's a lot to pick between them there. But of course, as far as we do know, Ronaldo is still on penalties. And I just think that he's got that potential in him to pop up with a hat-trick. We saw it against Tottenham early on in the season. I know he is getting on a bit and he's not the player he once was. I just think that potential is there to score quite a few goals in a given game. I know the potential is there for Fernandes as well, but I think we're less likely to see that when Ronaldo's starting. So I think Ronaldo would be the one to go for if I was confident of minutes. But due to the incident that we saw with Ronaldo and that assault or slapping the phone out the kid's hand, and also just the fact that he's got niggling injuries, the fact that if Chelsea is moved into game week 34, Manchester United will have 4 games in 12 days. If I had to guess now, please don't hold me accountable to this. If I had to guess, I would say Ronaldo starts against Norwich and is benched against Liverpool. And as a result, the fact that I'm not confident, I think at the moment my armband is probably going to be on Fernandes. Fernandes has been in every single one of my drafts. He's putting up very good data, as we saw at the start. A good fixture against Norwich, decent fixture against Liverpool as well. Just potential for attacking returns, of course. A dodgy goal, a dodgy assist, you never know. So at the moment, my armband's on Fernandes. And then the other two premiums in my team, this has changed a lot since my video earlier in the week. I have dropped De Bruyne. The reason for that is twofold. The first is that he did look like he picked up an injury in the Champions League. And the second is that, of course, the fixture against Liverpool is after the deadline. If that goes 120 minutes, I could potentially see them. Again, if he is struggling with an injury as well, they could potentially bench De Bruyne against Brighton. So I don't think I want to risk that, especially with the fact that I can't really get a particularly good bench out. And having thought about it, from trying to think about it from an objective perspective rather than thinking about it just from an FPL perspective or from a Manchester United fan perspective, I think Salah has a very good chance of absolutely destroying Manchester United. Now, I know he did that earlier on in the season, and that was when Shaw was playing. When Telles and Maguire are playing, I think that just looks like a Salah haul written all over it. Maguire has been really poor all season. He has looked a little bit better recently, but he's still not. He's a shadow of the man he once was. And Telles, for all that he is good going forward, he's not the best defender, I'll be completely honest. So I think there's a good chance that Salah turns up against Manchester United there, and I just don't want to back against him particularly. I'm not going to gain much from having him in my team because I think he'll be over 100% effective ownership, which means even having him in my team, I think I'll lose rank. But I'm trying to ignore ownership completely, and I think Salah will score quite a few points this week. So Salah is now in my team. He's been in most of my drafts. And then the other premium in my midfield, the third premium in my team, is Son. So Son's a tricky one because I do think there are other good options in midfield, as we are going to discuss in a bit. I think there are plenty of good options in midfield that you could potentially go for. But in my personal opinion, I'm not confident enough that they're either going to start both or that their underlying statistics back up that they will be an incredible choice. And I just think that Son's in fantastic form. As we saw again at the start, the underlying statistics are pretty good. And he's at that price where, yes, he's a premium, but I'm not paying sort of 12 million plus for him. So I still think he's relatively okay value. So at the moment, I've still got Son in there. That could potentially change. Son is not 100% confirmed. I have toyed with the idea of potentially getting rid of Telles and putting Sancho in Son's place. That would allow me to go Telles to Gabriel. So I'd get an Arsenal defender in and I'd remove Son for Sancho. The issue is Sancho's underlying data is really poor. It's really not that great. And as a result, that would be a bit of a punt, and that would mean probably triple Manchester United attack. So at the moment, I've still got Sonny in there. And as you can see on the bench, I've got the cheapest defender you can possibly buy, which is Fabian Delph as my first sub. Hopefully, I'm not going to need the bench because I don't have one at the moment. So that is the midfield four. Like I said, after we've done the strikers, I'm going to show you my list of other midfielders that I could potentially bring in because there are quite a few of them. But I am happy with those. Oh, I should finish with Maddison. I didn't even discuss Maddison. The issue with Maddison is, of course, that I don't think he's probably going to start both. Now, that doesn't mean that he's not going to start both. I just think there's a good potential that he's benched against Newcastle. The reason is he's only just come back from injury, and since then, he started pretty much every game and played 90 minutes in pretty much every game as well. And whilst he looked absolutely fantastic, I watched the entire game in the Europa Conference League against PSV. Maddison looked absolutely unbelievable. To be honest, he was the only Leicester player for me that looked good. I think Barnes looked terrible. Iheanacho looked okay. Daka looked decent after coming on. Lookman and Albrighton was shocking. Tielemans gave the ball away a lot. KDH looked okay, but again looked pretty knackered by the end of the game. Maddison looked by far and away the best player for Leicester, but he did look very tired at the end of the game. And the fact that they have now progressed to the semi-final, as we discussed earlier in the week, I don't see any reason that Brendan Rodgers would risk playing him in both games 90 minutes. So what you could see is two early subs, 60 minutes, or most likely a rest against Newcastle, maybe 15 minutes off the bench, and then starting the Everton game. That being said, he looks so good at the moment, I wouldn't even mind 90, 100 minutes for Maddison in this double game week. So at the moment, Maddison is still in my team. What I would like to present on your screen, though, this is from Fantasypedia. So I'm going to flash a graphic on your screen from Fantasypedia. This is a partnership that we are having for the end of the season. So what I would like you to do, the reason I love this partnership is we're not asking you to download an app or go to a website. Just click the first link in the description. It takes you to their Twitter account. They're creating amazing free content. So please just go over, follow them, let them know that FPL Raptor sent you. All you need to do is follow them, and that helps to support the channel. They create some really cool sort of positional graphics and let you know where teams have conceded chances from or potentially created chances from as well. And what they've shown in this graphic is that both Newcastle and Everton, who are the two teams that Leicester will be facing in double game week 33, they are conceding most of their chances from their own right flank, which will be Leicester's left flank. Now, again, Barnes came off at halftime in the Europa Conference League, which would suggest that he probably wasn't playing very well. In my personal opinion, he was playing pretty terribly. But that means that he's played combined in the last two games about 60 minutes. So he is the freshest of all of the Leicester players, and he is still one of their best attackers. So I think there's a reasonable chance Barnes starts both games. If he does, as you can see on your screen, both Everton and Newcastle concede most of their chances where Barnes will be occupying space. So 115 chances conceding for Newcastle where Barnes occupies that space, and 102 chances in the Everton game. So for me, I think that Barnes could actually be a decent shout, and I don't think a lot of people will go for him just because Maddison looks so good. So I guess it comes down to, do you go for the player that looks better but is likely to get reduced minutes, or the player that looks like he's struggling for form, but is likely to play more minutes, and the positional chances created and chances conceded would suggest that Leicester might actually do fairly well in those positions. Do let me know down below who you would prefer out of Barnes and Maddison. I think Maddison's still probably the one to go for, but really interesting data from Fancypedia there. And like I said, do drop Fancypedia a follow over on Twitter. Link is in the description down below. Let's move on to the strikers and then discuss some positions that I might potentially switch around in the starting 11. So finishing up with the forward line, we've got 3 strikers playing in a 3-4-3, which I know is crazy at the moment because the midfielders are so valuable and the strikers aren't. And we are going to discuss that there's still a very good chance that I play a 3-5-2 and actually get an extra midfielder into the team. But starting with Ronaldo, I've sort of talked about Ronaldo without telling you that I had Ronaldo, but I think it was fairly obvious that I was going with Ronaldo based on what I said at the start. Putting up very similar data to Son and Kane. You can see I've actually still managed to get Son, Salah, Fernandes and Ronaldo in. I could still get Kane in, but it would result in the rest of the team being absolutely dreadful. And I would probably still have to drop one of Salah and Son. And so for me at the moment, I think that because he's cheaper than Kane and because I think he's playing in a more advanced position and has slightly high goal threat at the moment, I'm preferring to go with Son over Kane. I have Kane in my normal team, so it's a big risk that I'm planning on free hitting and removing Kane. I just think that Son, for me, due to the money, due to the fact that he's playing slightly further forward, he's going for that golden boot. I just about prefer Son at the moment. I still think Kane's a fantastic option. I've gone for Ronaldo because, like I said, as far as I'm concerned, he's still on penalties. If I had to predict, he's had a full week off before the Norwich game. I don't see any reason why he would then rest the Norwich game. So I think Ronaldo's starting against Norwich. I think there's a reasonable chance he's benched against Liverpool. But are we expecting that much from Manchester United against Liverpool anyway? Potentially not. And that means he'll probably come on in the final 30 minutes when the Liverpool defence is slightly more tired. I'm not expecting him to score against Liverpool particularly. But what I'm saying is then he will probably get a few chances against Norwich. We're maybe hoping for 9-12 points against Norwich, a couple of appearance points against Liverpool potentially. I would be happy with 13-ish points from Ronaldo, and I think that's very possible if you look at his underlying data. You don't need to tell me, again, that you don't like Manchester United players and you think they're terrible. I understand that is the general consensus from FPL managers and just football fans across the world at the moment. I think I would rather take the risk with Ronaldo. Looking at my rank, I'm 54k. If I drop to 70k because Kane scores a brace, so be it. So be it. I would rather take the risk with Ronaldo, get the extra game in there, and looking at the data, I think that's a fairly sensible decision to take. The other 2 strikers are slightly bigger risk. I'm going to start with Chris Wood. Now, I waited to present this graphic. I absolutely love it. It's another graphic from Fancypedia, so I'm going to flash that on your screen now. This is from chances conceded from set pieces for Leicester, I should say, and Crystal Palace, which are the 2 teams that Newcastle face. So we've spoken about already the fact that both Leicester and Crystal Palace are going to be tied. We've spoken about already the fact that Leicester and Crystal Palace are both home fixtures for Newcastle, which is absolutely fantastic. I did speak about early on in the week the fact that I think Chris Wood could be the one to go for ahead of St. Maximin, just due to the fact that he's on penalties and he's getting slightly more higher XG opportunities than St. Maximin. The other reason, and the reason that I'm perfectly happy having Burn and Share as well as Chris Wood, is that Leicester and Palace concede a lot of chances from, or at least a lot of attempts from set pieces. So Leicester have conceded the 2nd most in the Premier League this season at 137, and Palace have conceded the 4th most at 125. So Burn and Share are both pretty good from set pieces. Chris Wood is both very good, not only in the air, but also good from set pieces as well. I should say that Target also takes a few corners for Newcastle. So I still think if I could get from Burn to Share, which I just can't if I want this team, if I could get from Burn to Share, I think I would, because he obviously takes, from Burn to Target, I should say, because Target takes a lot of corners for Newcastle. I know Burn is 6'7" and he could get on a few of end of those set pieces, but I think Target and Share is the best of both worlds. You've got someone that's very good from set pieces on the end of them, and you've also got someone that takes corners as well. But this is just to show that I think Burn / Target, Share, and Wood, if you own all 3 of them, you've got a very good chance of getting something from a set piece, according to this data from Fancypedia. So again, do follow Fancypedia, link in the description down below, but I really like that graphic. So Chris Wood is remaining in my team. He's on penalties, decent from set pieces, good in the air as well, and I just think he's a pretty fun punt. I do think St. Maximin's a fine option, and you could go for him by all means, but I'm going to probably go for Chris Wood. And then the 3rd and final striker is actually Che Adams. Now, I spoke about Che Adams earlier on in the week again. If you haven't watched any of the videos, by the way, this is the 5th video that I've done this week for YouTube. Still got the deadline stream tomorrow as well, so do go watch all of that content. I think Adams is really good because he's actually putting up better data than Wood, St. Maximan, Weghorst, J. Rodriguez. He's putting up really good data. It's around a sort of 0.45 expected goal involvement per 90. And I do think that I expect Southampton to respond after their 6-0 thrashing against Chelsea. They normally do. After they lose those, I don't want to keep bringing it up, Saints fans, but those sort of 9-0 thrashings, they tend to bounce back the next game. And Hassan Hüttl's a very sort of proud manager that I don't expect him to just go all guns blazing, leave loads of space open for Arsenal. I expect a response, but a very structured and organised response as well. So I would predict it probably being sort of a 1-1, 2-1 sort of game against Arsenal. And the Burnley fixture's a very nice fixture once again. So I actually quite like taking a punt on a Southampton attacker, despite the fact that they haven't looked fantastic recently. And Adams is putting up probably the best attacking data out of all of the Southampton options there. So I quite like him as an option. I do think there are other Southampton options you can go for, as we'll discuss in 2 seconds. But I do really like Adams, and I think I'm going to have Adams in my final team. So that is the starting 11. My actual team value is 104.7. This team won't cost 104.7, but that is my team value at the moment, and I have 0 in the bank. I haven't actually activated my free hit yet. I haven't made any of these transfers, just in case I decided to make any different ones. I didn't want to lose value. But this is the team that I'm currently going for. As you can see directly above my head, there are 4 players that could still make their way into their team, and it could change the formation and other players could be coming out. So the 2 players that are not definitely sort of dead cert in my team at the moment are Maddison and Adams. All right, so those 2 players, Maddison and Adams, could potentially come out, and coming in could either be Maddison, it could be coming in for Maddison's spot and then Delph, meaning that I drop Adams to a cheaper player, to a cheap striker, and we go into a 3-5-2. So, for example, if I bring in Barnes and Cornet for Maddison and Adams and Delph, what would happen is that I'd have a 5 midfield of Salah, Son, Fernandes, Barnes and Cornet, and then just 2 up top of Wood and Ronaldo. So we could switch to a 3-5-2. The 4 players that I potentially am looking at are Saka, because I don't have any Arsenal players in this team, and I don't think Arsenal are going to look great. They've got Lacazette out, potentially. They've got Partey out, and they've got Tierney out as well, who are 3 big players for Arsenal. So I don't expect them to do that well in this double game week. But I could bring in Saka. Like I said, according to that Fancypedia data, and also according to the fact that I think he'll play more minutes than Maddison, Barnes could come in for Maddison. He's obviously £0.4 million cheaper as well. And then we've got Cornet, who I actually think is a really good shout for this week. The reason being that West Ham, again, are going to be knackered, similarly to what we said with Leicester and Palace. I think West Ham are going to be tired after their European football. And also, West Ham and Southampton have both got some of the poorest defensive data over the last 6 matches. So I think Cornet could be a really good shout in midfield. And then I've got Ward-Prowse, putting up decent underlying data. And of course, he is on penalties for Southampton. So I think he could be a decent shout as well. So those are the 4 midfielders that I'm looking at. If I am to bring one of them in, it would just be a straight swap for Maddison. If I wanted to get 2 of those guys in, it could be that I switch out Maddison and Adams, like I said, and bring in another one into midfield. So we are going to discuss what that will look like in a second. This is the team as things stand, though. So do let me know down below what you think of this team. I've got a very, very cheap bench. The reason for that is 9 of my players are double game week players. So unless any of them get COVID or get a massive injury before the game, and we don't know about that, they should play at least one of the fixtures. And then my 2 single game week players are Salah and Son. Even if either of them are randomly benched, I'd expect them to come on. So, again, unless there are major injuries, it is a slight risk that Salah gets injured in the FA Cup. But for me, I don't think it's worth downgrading any of my starting 11 to put a bench player in there just in case. I think all of my starting 11 should start. So that is the way the team looks. Like I said, let me know down below. We're just going to move over to a 5-minute live tinker. I'm going to show you what it might look like if I bring in Saka, Barnes, Cornet, or JWP, and how that might change the way the team looks ahead of Game Week 33. Right, so we're just going to look at Game Week 33 here. I am so excited for Game Week 34. I've built so many wildcard drafts already. I've already started thinking about it. I can't wait for the content next week to show you what my wildcard drafts currently look like. But we're just going to focus on 33 here. It's going to take a few minutes just to show you what I could the changes I could potentially make. But if you watch my deadline stream tomorrow, I'll probably be streaming. I might even start around sort of 8, half 8, because we're going to do a charity stream as well as a deadline stream. So all of the proceeds from the live stream tomorrow are going to go towards charity, which I'm super excited for. More to be spoken about in that deadline stream. But so if you do want to find out my final team, is what I'm saying, you got to tune into the deadline stream. But it should look fairly similar. Like I said, the 2 main spots that I'm not 100% confident on are Maddison and Adams. So to be honest, the only striker that I really like at the moment is probably Adams. So it'll either be a 3-4-3 with Adams. If I take out Adams, it's not going to be for another striker. It'll be to switch to a 5-3-2. So something that I've been considering, just to show you, is if I take out Adams for something like Richardson, he's just a 4.5 million. It could be any 4.5 million pound striker, right? So I would then put a 5-man midfield in, and then Delph can become, I've got 6.6 million for Delph. So Delph can become pretty much any 6.6 million or below. So at this stage, I can go for Barnes, right? If I want to go for the double up on the Leicester midfielders. I don't think I want to do that particularly after what happened in the Europa Conference League. Leicester didn't look great. They obviously played 90 minutes, a lot of them. Barnes came off early, so I still think he's a good option. But I'm not necessarily sure I want to go for a double up on the Leicester midfield. So the other option I've got, who I really do like at the moment, is Cornet. I don't know why I keep switching them out like that. So Cornet would come in, pretty decent again. And then I have that option for Maddison. So I've got 0.7 in the bank for this Maddison spot. I could then either just keep Maddison in, or there's the other two options. So Saka and Ward-Prowse are the other two that I want. I'm starting to think that Saka, the only reason I would want Saka in my team, and I don't know this, I'm trying to, I talk about cognitive biases all the time. It's very difficult to know when you are suffering from FOMO or you're suffering from plan continuation bias. It's not easy to identify these things. I think I'm putting Saka in because of his effective ownership. Arsenal haven't looked as great recently. Partey's out, Tierney's out, and now we're looking like Lacazette might be out. Now, I know what you might think about Lacazette as a finisher and as a striker. He does tie their attack together. There's a very small chance Saka's at left back. And just outside that, I think there's a lot of disturbances to Arsenal. I've just said that I expect a response from Southampton, and Chelsea are a top side. Am I expecting that much from Arsenal? Not really. So I wonder if I am putting Saka in there just due to fear of the fact that I think his ownership, because he's already about 80-85% owned on effective ownership, I think a lot of people that are not free hitting might captain Saka. I think Saka's ownership could be north of 100% effective ownership, and I feel like maybe I'm putting him in there for that reason. Now, I'm not sure of that. I might still have him, but that is something that I need to consider for myself. So I think more likely it would probably still be Maddison or Barnes. So I guess the thing that I'm deciding between is, do I want Adams or do I want Cornet/Ward-Prowse? So let me know in the comments down below if you're still watching at this point. Firstly, let me know that you're someone that watches the entire video. Secondly, let me know, do you like Adams? Do you like Cornet? Or do you like Ward-Prowse? If you're looking at the underlying data, Adams actually looks like potentially the one to go for. What I would say is that I really like the two defenses that Cornet's playing up against if you're looking at underlying data. So West Ham really haven't been great recently. Again, they're probably still high on that fantastic Europa League win going through to the semi-finals. Are they going to be focusing on that now as opposed to the Premier League? Southampton, whatever you think about a response from them, like I said, they're defensively not very good, and that is at home for Burnley. So I do really like these fixtures for Cornet. And then I suppose the justification for Ward-Prowse is that he's got decent underlying data. He's on corners, free kicks, and penalties. I think all three are good options. I do think that I'm going to want a Leicester midfielder. Whether that's Maddison or Barnes, I'm not sure. So like I said, it's probably just this spot here. Do I want Cornet? Do I want Ward-Prowse? Do I want Adams? Let me know what you think down below. Also, let me know what you think of my entire draft. I should say that if I do go for Cornet and Maddison, I'd upgrade Burn to target. And if I have the money, I do have the money, I would probably then upgrade Kelly or Simicast to a Marty. Or maybe, so I've got 0.4, so I could even go for Cedric. So that's maybe another reason to potentially want to go for Cornet. I should finish with that. Didn't even think about that. So with the money in the bank, Cornet would allow me to get a stronger first sub and also go for Burn to target. That is making me now lean towards Cornet, but I do really like Adams as a punt. As you can see, I haven't fully decided on my starting 11, but I am generally happy with the majority of it. I'm going to have Fernandes, Ronaldo, Salah, and Son almost definitely. I'm probably going to captain a Manchester United player. At the moment, that's Fernandes or Ronaldo. Let me know what you think of my team. Also, let me know what your free hit drafts like down below, or just let me know what your dilemmas are for transfers this week. So guys, there you have it. That is my team selection video ahead of Game Week 33, the free hit draft. As I said, do let me know what you think of it down below. If you'd like to support the channel, please do like, comment, and subscribe. And also, just to sort of like celebrate the partnership with Fantasypedia, I do think it's a match made in heaven, right? It's completely free content that they're creating on Twitter. I'm not asking you to sign up to some external link. Just go drop them a follow over on Twitter. So the link is in the description. It will massively help support them. They're creating quality content. They're not begging for likes and retweets over on Twitter. They're just creating this quality content. So if you would like to support them, if you'd like to see all of their cool graphics and graphs, by the way, I only showed you a couple there. They've got lots over on Twitter. Do go follow them down below. The next piece of content will, of course, be the deadline stream tomorrow. As I said, it is going to be a charity stream / deadline stream. So it's going to be a usual deadline stream, but all super chats, memberships, and all AdSense as well, basically money that I make from ad revenue, will all be going to Bone Cancer Research Trust. So if you'd like to see my final free hit draft, support charity, and watch a deadline stream, do tune in tomorrow. Like I said, I'll probably be going live about 8:30 a.m. GMT. I'll go live super early. I'm going to be a sort of 2.5-hour live stream. So I'm very excited for that. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you get a green arrow in Game Week 33 if this is the final piece of content you watch. Thank you guys. Cheers. Bye-bye.